What's going on, everyone? My name is Derek. Welcome to my channel, Superbike Life, or ESBKLife for short. Today, we're taking a look at cylinder compression testing on my S1000RR Track bike right after this. Welcome back, everyone. So why do a compression test? Well, a couple of reasons. Compression test should be regular maintenance on any motorcycle, particularly your sport bike. Just like you're changing your oil, your air filter, adjusting valves, what have you. Doing a compression test on your bike will actually provide you some information to let you know how healthy your engine is. With this particular bike, it has, well, let me back up. It's a 2011, it's 2019, so the bike is 8 years old. It has 23,000 miles on it. Roughly 22,000 of those were spent on the street. 1,000-ish were spent on the track. And I'm starting to do ECU tunes. I'm starting to do some more performance mods to get more horsepower and torque out of the bike. And you don't want to spend that money and do all those things if your engine isn't healthy. So a good way to check, easy way to check, inexpensive way to check, is to do a compression test followed by possibly a leak down test. Possibly a leak down test and some other things to let you know how healthy your engine is. So without further ado, let's take a look at some of the tools you may need, and then we'll jump into actually doing the test and talk about what the results may mean and what you're looking for and other reasons why you would do the test. All right, guys, so we're over here on top of my tool chest, and here are the basic tools that you're going to need to do a compression test. Now, each bike is going to be a little bit different based on whether it's a track bike and you got track fairings, or if you deleted all the emissions items, whether it's a complete street bike and so forth. But once you remove all the fairings and the tanks and all of that stuff, and you get to where you can actually start to do the compression test, these are the things that you're going to need. So I got a 3/8 drive ratchet, a couple of extensions. For my S1000, I got a 14 millimeter deep spark plug socket, the compression test kit itself, and this special tool, I can't remember where I got it or how much I paid for it, but I want to say it was like 20, 30 bucks. This is a special tool to remove the spark plug coils, and I'll show you why you might need a special tool to do that, but I have heard of some people actually getting the coils out of there with a zip tie, believe it or not. So, but these are the basic tools that you're going to need. Your compression test kit typically comes with a gauge that reads PSI. It will typically come with some length of hose with several adapters on it. So we got 3 adapters here plus 1 on here. They come in various sizes from 14 millimeters, I believe, all the way up to 18 millimeters. This is an inexpensive Harbor Freight one. I think this particular unit was about 26 bucks. Professional unit will run you in the area of $300. So depending on how often you're doing this, you might want to vary or decide on how much you want to spend on this. If you're doing compression tests a lot, you got a lot of bikes, and it might make sense to buy a decent one. I'm just going to do an initial test, and if the results aren't what I want them to be, then I'll probably purchase a decent unit and do another test. But let's turn over to the bike and take a look at it. Okay, guys, so we're over here at the bike, and as you can see, I've already removed all the side fairings, the upper fairings. I've removed the tank as well as the air box, which is right here, so that we can get to the spark plug area. So in order to do a compression test, basically you have to remove all of the spark plugs, put the adapter down in each spark plug hole, hold the throttle open, crank the engine over, read it. Really simple. Like most things on vehicles and motorcycles, the difficult part is actually getting to where the spark plugs are. So again, I've already removed all the covers like the tank, the air box. I did not remove the ECU, I just folded it out of the way. The injectors are out of the way. And this gives us a good area to work within here. I've actually already moved the coils. Because this is a track bike, I don't have any of the emissions controls items. So on your bike, if it's a street S1000RR, once you get the air box and stuff out of the way, down in this area here, you're going to have a charcoal canister and possibly some other emissions control lines and air lines and things of that nature that you'll also have to move out of the way. But seeing this is a track bike, I've already done that. None of that stuff is in there. So from that perspective, I have plenty of room to get in here and get to the spark plugs, get to the coils, and remove those. So when I remove the coils and the spark plugs, I'll show you the tool and how it works and things of that nature in just a second. But when I remove the coils and the spark plugs, I like to label things. So you can't see down in here right now, but there are some lines that go, some electrical connectors that go to the coils, and I've marked those with dots so I know which cylinder, which coil they go to. So over here on my coils that I've already removed, you can see that I have 1 dot, 2 dot, all the way up to 4 dots corresponding to the cylinders 1 through 4. I've also done the same thing with the spark plugs, 1 dot, 2 dot, all the way up to 4 to correspond where in the motor they go from cylinder number 1 to cylinder number 4. And I've done the same thing with the coil connectors over here. So 1 dot to 4 to correspond. So I can make sure that I put everything back where it's supposed to go. I don't cross anything up. That way I don't get any misfires and it's not running poorly or anything like that. It's just something I do. I know a number of professional mechanics, not just shade tree DIY mechanics like myself, do the same thing. But you should do something like that, whether it's a piece of tape, whether it's a marker or something. Dot it. Make sure that you know that this connection goes to that particular coil, goes to that particular spark plug. Okay, so here is one of my spark plug coils. It's number 1 because it's 1 dot there that I put on it. And you can see that there is a groove around the back side of this coil, right around here. And if you can imagine this being down in this area here with your valve cover, your coil is going to sit sort of like this, and there's not a whole lot of clearance above it. So getting your hands in here to grasp this and pull it up is really difficult in there. In fact, if you do it wrong, you can break the top of this and you end up buying new coils. So someone ingenious, and there are a number of these, came up with this tool. It's manufactured out of, looks like billet aluminum or what have you, and it sits in this channel. So there's this piece down here, and it just sort of slides in like this, and it allows you to grab and pull this up, or you can put something like a screwdriver through the hole here, like so, and then grab and pull this up. Again, it's not necessary. I've seen some people wrap zip ties around here, grab the zip tie, pull the zip tie out, but this special tool, again, costs like 20, 30 bucks. Save yourself some aggravation, busted knuckles, broken zip ties and things, and aggravation and cussing and swearing, and just buy the tool and these things pop right out. All right, so again, the compression test itself is super, super simple. Once you get everything out of the way, again, I've already gone ahead and removed my spark plugs, all 4 of them. So 1 over here, 2, 3, 4. And I've removed all the coils. I've gotten the wires out of the way. Now, there are 2 ways to run this test. Cold engine, like this bike is, and warm engine. And you should really, in theory, you should do them both ways. So what you want to do is go and take your bike out for a 10-15 minute ride, get it up to normal operating temperature, bring it back into your garage, shop, or what have you, then start to disassemble this stuff, and then do a compression test while the engine is warm. Let it cool off for a couple of hours, then come back and do the compression test again when it's cold. So a compression test is going to read in PSI, and it will vary slightly from a warm engine compression test to a cold engine compression test. Your cold engine is going to read a little bit lower, where your warm engine is going to read a little bit higher and be more accurate. However, the margin is variable. So if you can't go out and warm up your bike, or if it's all already taken apart, then don't worry about that. Just know that your cold engine numbers are going to be a little bit lower. Now, if you guys follow me on IG, you already know the results of this test. I'm just going through it again so that you guys can see it here on video. And there are some variances here that you need to be aware of. While the test is super, super simple, you can get incorrect readings or either on the positive side or on the negative side, which both could lead you to making decisions that could either destroy your engine or have you spending thousands of dollars or nothing at all and thinking everything's fine. So for example, you run a compression test, you hook up something wrong, and it reads normal. And you say, great, there's nothing wrong with my engine, I'm good, and you go out and you ride it hard on the track and it shuts off and you blew a gasket or something like that. Maybe it's because you didn't hook up the adapter correctly, maybe you didn't open the throttles, maybe, who knows, I don't know. On the opposite side, maybe it's reading super low and you say, shit, my engine is crap, and you go out and you rebuild it and you find out that later that, again, you didn't hook up an adapter properly, you didn't do the test properly, and you spent a whole lot of money for nothing. So first of all, make sure that you do this test, you run this test multiple times. Make sure that you're doing everything that you're supposed to be doing so that you can get accurate numbers. And again, make sure your equipment is up to par. This compression test I just purchased a couple of days ago, so it's new, so it should be very accurate. But I have another one coming in, and I'll talk about why in a little bit. But the other thing is that the combustion chamber, the area within the motor where the piston rises and falls, where your spark plug enters that area, you're compressing an air-fuel mixture, and there's an explosion that pushes the piston back down, right? That's a combustion chamber inside the engine. Well, that has a specific volume, and any variance to things coming in and out of that combustion chamber, say spark plugs or your compression adapter, that will change the volume within your combustion chamber and change your compression numbers. And we'll talk about that in a minute. So first thing we want to do is I have my compression test line. I have my 14 mil, excuse me, I have a compression test line, and I have my 14 mil adapter on here, and there's an O-ring on there. So first thing we want to do is we want to drop it in one of the holes. We're going to do cylinder number 1. Just feed it down in there. And we want to thread it in until it stops. Now you don't want to over torque this because again, I've heard people that are like tighten these down in here, then they do the compression test and then they can't get the thing out, or they finally get it out and the rubber hose breaks and you got half the hose down in there. That is miserable. You don't want to do that. So don't over tighten this. You want it to be snug so that there's no air leakage, but you don't want to over torque this thing so that when you turn it the opposite direction to get it out, you can actually get it out. So then we take our compression gauge, and I have a quick connect on here. So we make sure that's connected. We push the button to zero it out. I will set that right there. Then what you basically want to do is you want to turn the engine on. And again, you're going to have to do this 4 times, or if you have 6-cylinder Goldwing, you have to do this 6 times, or if you have a single-cylinder dirt bike, you'll need to do this once. Either way, if you have a battery, you want to make sure that your battery is fully charged, or put it on a tender while you're doing this, because we don't want our battery to affect our starter and so forth. Also, before we get started, when you're doing multiple cylinders, you want to wait in between each cylinder test, because we're going to fire our starter motor here, and we don't want to burn out our starter. So once your tank is everything is all off, some bikes again may be different, but we don't want to initiate a spark, which is why we remove all the spark plugs, which is why we remove the coils, and we don't want any fuel getting into the combustion chamber, which on our bike is good because we have to remove the fuel tank to get here. Some bikes will have a fuel cut relay or a spark plug, or a fuse so that you can pull so that you don't send. You tell in the fuel pump, you're basically cutting it off and it won't send any fuel in here. So we've done all of that. We don't have to worry about that. The S1000 doesn't actually have a specific fuel pump fuse. It does have a cut fuse, but if we pull that, then the bike won't turn over at all, and we still need the starter to operate. But on the S1000, once you get the tank off, once you get the coils off and get everything out of the way, we don't have to worry about any fuel or ignition or any spark of that nature. So you don't have to worry about pulling a fuse or a relay or anything like that on the S1000RR 2011 first gen. The other bikes I don't know about, like my MV, that may be completely different. All right, so we got our adapter screwed into the cylinder number 1. We got our compression gauge on. Next thing we want to do is we want to turn on the bike, let it cycle. Then you want to grab the throttle and open the throttle wide open so that your throttle bodies open up on here as far as they will go. And then we want to hit the starter button and let it cycle about 5 to 8 times, and you'll see that the compression gauge will go up. So let's go hit the button. All right, then we'll turn it off and we'll read the gauge, and you'll see on, actually let me disconnect it here, you see that. So on here we're reading maybe about 85-ish, just below 90 with those ticks in there, so maybe 80. Right now it's pretty cold. We'll do another one, and you'll see it go back up to 90, excuse me. So then we'll clear that out, set this aside, unscrew this. You would make note of that compression reading. Then you'll drop it into cylinder number 2. Again, thread that in there so that it's seated properly. Put our gauge back on. We'll set that right there. Turn the bike on. Open the throttle. Hit the button. Turn that off. Pull that. And you'll see cylinder number 2 is about the same as cylinder number 1. About 85-ish, 89 maybe, in that area. And if we continue on, all of the cylinders on this bike are the exact same. So right now, when I first did this, I'm freaking out. Why am I freaking out? Because, well, about 90 psi across all 4 cylinders is not great. The S1000RR should be somewhere in the 210 range-ish. And you don't want anything more than, well, according to BMW, 25% variance across any of your cylinders. So if one read 90, the other one read 210, you got some issues. If they all read low across the board here, then you got issues. So when I initially did this test, I freaked out because they were all 90-ish or 90 below, and they all should be 210. And this is a track bike, but the bike is running really well. I don't have any problems with the bike misfiring or feeling low on power, although with the Alpha Racing ECU that I flashed that we just did, I don't have it properly tuned, so it does feel down on power since I removed the PC5, but that's because we haven't properly tuned it. The bike is running super rich, and we don't have any timing in it, and we haven't done anything. But other than that, the bike is running fantastic, but I have low compression across all 4 cylinders. So I was freaking out, and like I said, if you follow me on IG, I posted in there, anyone got another first-gen engine that they got sitting around, because now I'm thinking I have to rebuild this thing or find a pre-owned engine. However, I might have some saving grace. So first off, I haven't done a leak down test, so that's possibly next. But I don't have great variances from cylinder number 1 to cylinder number 4. They are all about the same, right in the area of 90 to 89 psi, but that is way low because they should be around 210-ish. So I'm going to grab one of my spark plugs here, and I want you guys to look at something here. Notice the thread length on this spark plug. Let me get my caliper here. Get my caliper, we'll zero it out there, and set this aside, and we'll measure, zero it out. And we'll measure the thread length right to the end. And the thread length reads about 25 millimeters in length, 25.04 millimeters in length. On the thread length on your spark plug. Notice the thread length on the adapter is significantly shorter. So remember when I was saying earlier about your combustion chamber, and anything entering or being removed from the combustion chamber will change the volume inside there? Well, this long thread spark plug means that there's a significant area that it has to thread through the motor before the tip enters the combustion chamber. That means the tip of our adapter is not getting into the combustion chamber, which means by removing the spark plug and replacing it with this adapter, we've increased the volume inside the combustion chamber and therefore automatically lowered our compression numbers. So what I'm doing on Monday is I have a long thread 14 mil adapter coming, should be here tomorrow, on Monday, and then I will do this test again. I don't think it's 25 mil in length like the spark plug, but I think it's closer. So right now, I'm less worried than I was yesterday when I did this initial test, but we'll see once I get the new long thread adapter. We'll redo the test, and we'll go from there. So for now, I'm signing off. The next time this video comes back up, it'll be the next day or next 2 days, whenever this gets here, and we'll do the test again. So I'll see you in a few. All right, welcome back, everyone. It is the next day. I have my nice new Midivac Professional compression kit. This was supposed to come with a long thread adapter for this motorcycle, but it does not. It does come with a long thread adapter, but not the size that I need. However, seeing I have it here, I'm going to give this one a shot anyway. So without further ado, let's come on over to the bike. We'll run the test, see what happens. Oh, by the way, I did happen to speak with the awesome guys at EDR Performance up in the Oregon area. I believe they're in Beaverton, Oregon. I talked to them about rebuilding the engine, obviously, and I told them, I showed them what the compression numbers were, and I told him what they were, and he said, oh wow, you know, yeah, you need to rebuild that. And then I told him I was using a stubby short thread adapter and I really need the long thread one, and he verified that I do in fact need the long thread in order to get accurate readings, but also the compression numbers that I thought were supposed to be in the 210 range should actually between 160 and 180. With the lowest of being 140. So it's not supposed to be as high as I originally thought. Again, I couldn't Google that and find those numbers anywhere online or in the shop manual that I have. So the range is 140 to 180s, which is where I'm supposed to be with this bike. So let's come on over to the bike, take a look. So here's the Harbor Freight adapter for the bike. And here is the new MIDIVAC adapter for the bike. Again, as you can see, they're about the same length. It is not, in fact, the long thread that I thought I was getting. It was just a regular thread. So I'm still on the lookout for a long thread compression test adapter for this bike. But I have them nonetheless. The Harbor Freight line is significantly longer, but that's not significant. And then I have the pressure gauge from the new MIDIVAC system. So we are going to thread this into cylinder number 1. Almost. Okay, there we go. We got a quick release, so we'll pop that on. Set that up there. All right, so then we'll do the same process. We'll turn on the power. We'll open the throttle. Oh, you guys can't see it if I do. Throttle, and then hit it. Oops, run the throttle. 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. All right, so big difference. We are exactly at 140 PSI. Way different from what our Harbor Freight system said. So I'm going to do another test here. Just to FYI, if you guys remember from yesterday, cylinder number 2 was about the same. So I'm going to thread this adapter into cylinder number 2. And we're going to test them at the same time. Throttle's open. All right. So again, we have the Harbor Freight unit reading just below 90 PSI, while our new MIDIVAC unit reads almost 150 now. It's about 140 change. Excuse me. There we go. So our MIDIVAC is reading about 140 change, while our Harbor Freight unit is reading about 90. So I'd say that's this guy here, probably junk. So we won't go with those readings, although it's easy for me to say, hey, let's go with the one with the better readings. But at the same time, I also know that this MIDIVAC unit is a quality unit. And again, I think I would be within the proper range if I had the long thread adapter. Okay, so we're going to thread the new MIDIVAC line and adapter into cylinder number 2. Remember, the Harbor Freight unit just read that it was about 90 PSI or lower. We know from yesterday that all of these are around the same PSI, certainly not in the 140 range. So I'm going to thread this one in. Nice and snug. Quick adapter fitting on here. We'll place that right there-ish. We'll turn this on and we'll do another test on cylinder number 2. And we'll open the throttle, press. 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, So this one, you probably can't see that, but it's about 150 psi as opposed to the 90 that the Harbor Freight unit just showed us. So now we'll do this with cylinder number 3. Again, we'll set this up there like so, turn it on, open the throttle, hit the button. We stop. So this one's reading 140 as well. So we have 140 cylinder number 1, 150 number 2, 140 number 3. And then we'll check number 4 here. Make sure I get you all the way on there. There we go. Set you up there. And we'll do it one more time. Stop it. And this one's reading 140 as well. So we have 140 across the board with 150 in cylinder number 2. And according to EDR, that's right about the minimum. So we're on the edge of needing to do a rebuild. But I think what I'll do now is I'll track down a quality leak down test kit. I won't use one from Harbor Freight, obviously, because the numbers are reading super, super low. And I'll continue to look for a long thread adapter for this bike, because I think I'm probably about 5 to 10 psi lower than I should be. For one, the engine is cold, and 2, I don't have the long thread adapter, so we've increased the volume in the combustion chamber. But that is it for now. That's what I want to show you guys. So again, we're going to do a leak down test sometime in the future. I don't think I need a rebuild right now, but we'll know more after a leak down test, and we'll go from there. So you guys know the drill. Like, comment, subscribe, or smash it if you didn't. I hope you guys found this video useful. But until next time, guys, take care.